Hello, everyone. Welcome to HPFT's Fic Night. Tonight we are reading And It Was Like Slow Motion by Down in Flames. So I'm joined tonight by Down in Flames. This story is a Dorcas Meadows, Marlene McKinnon fanfic that also has a little bit of Jilly, though it's not notably not focused on them as a ship, which I think we can all say is a perhaps unique thing in Taylor's story list. So I'm going to read the majority of the story, so you'll be mostly seeing my face through this, but at the end, I'll bring Taylor back on to discuss her work. All right, let's get going. This story is rated mature and has advisories for um, wait, hold on. None. Cool. She'd be lying if she said she didn't pick the dress out specifically for James. He'd always liked her in yellow. He'd always told her it made her look like sunshine, and she'd always flushed at the compliment, unsure if it was meant to be friendly or meant to be something more. She's more she's now almost positive that it was the latter. The sweetheart neckline is also for his benefit. It shows off her cleavage, just enough that he knows he won't be able to resist glancing at it every so often, and she'll obviously call him out on it, and he'll stammer out some sort of excuse, and she'll respond with something coy, and she's getting ahead of herself. But she can't really help it. She hasn't seen the bloke since graduation, so it's natural that he'll be a little overeager about the thought of seeing him again. She watches her reflection, runs her hands over the fabric, making sure every last inch of it is in place. Her red hair falls down her back in waves, and her makeup is mostly natural, nothing like the sort of stuff she's gotten used to, but it's enough to make her look that she's positively glowing. There's a knock on the door, effectively startling Lily from her trance of watching herself in the mirror. She knows, objectively, it's not James. James has never been great about getting anywhere on time. He was at least somewhat better when he was head boy, but that was only for official things. Anything else and he was useless. But even despite that logic, she feels hope rise in her chest anyways. When she opens the door, though, there's no tall, dark-haired boy behind it. Instead, there's Marlene and Dorcas. "Hot damn," Marlene says in lieu of a normal greeting. "You look like you're trying to stun someone." Dorcas snorts at that. "Let me guess. He's about yay tall, plays professional Quidditch, perpetually has sex hair, name rhymes with hotter." Lily flushes at the call-out. Arguing with her would be entirely useless. Dorcas is completely aware of how much she's come to fancy James in their last few months at Hogwarts. "You're going to succeed, you know," Dorcas tells her. "Potter could barely keep his eyes off you in Hogwarts robes, much less in this. He'll be goddamn speechless." "I'm honestly surprised this is the first time you're seeing him since graduation," Marlene adds. "Quidditch training can't be that time-consuming, can it? You two were practically attached at the hip the last month of school." Lily shrugs, trying her best to keep her face impassive. "I don't know. I guess it's just a big adjustment for him, getting used to the whole professional athlete life." "Yeah, I suppose." But the truth is, she doesn't fully get it either. She's written to him 5 or so times since graduation, asking about life and training, and casually suggesting that maybe they grab dinner and catch up with each other, if he's got a free night anytime soon. And yet, every time, her owl has returned empty-clawed. He's not responded to her once. She knows full well that he's always terrible at responding to his mom's letters at school. He's got more than one half-hearted howler about his lack of response. But 5 times? She supposes she can ask him about that when he gets here today. or at very least decide on a better form of communication where he'll actually remember to answer her. But despite all the letters going unanswered, she knows he'll be here today. This is a different form, or this is different from a short blurb of a letter. This is a party they'd all had planned since the 1st of September last year. A reunion party when the Hogwarts Express left King's Cross for the first time without any of them on it. They talked about it constantly all year. She combs back through her memory of 7th year, through the many, many times when he said he'd be here today. He wouldn't go back on that. Her tiny flat is decorated perfectly for the occasion, red and gold balloons all over, just like their house colors, and lots of sweets available, just like the ones on the trolley Witch always comes around with. And, of course, a fair bit of alcohol, which is decidedly not just like the Hogwarts Express, but seems to be a necessity at a post-graduation party. Marlene and Dorcas sit on the couch, poking through the candy selection on the table in front of them, and Lily's just about to join them when there's another knock. It's Remus this time, and he gives Lily a big hug as soon as she opens the door for him. "It's good to see you, Lil," he tells her. She beams at him. "You too." "I keep feeling like I've forgotten something," he laughs. "Shouldn't we be on a train right now?" "Shit, I'm supposed to be running for a prefect meeting now." "I'm sure they're awfully lost right now without either of their heads," Remus replies. "Oi, Lupin, stop talking about school and come pour yourself a drink," Marlene yells from the other side of the flat, and Remus's attention is diverted. "McKinnon, you haven't changed a bit." "Well, of course I haven't," she answers reasonably. "It's only been 3 months. How much can someone change in 3 months?" "Hey, Marley," Dorcas says to her. "Remember that summer you left Hogwarts straight as an arrow and came back loudly announcing to everyone you knew that you were gay as hell? Because I'd say that's a pretty big change for 3 months." "I never said I was straight as an arrow," Marlene retorts. "I was just heavily closeted. There's a difference." Dorcas shrugs, then throws her arm around her girlfriend. "Fair enough." "Evans!" Through her still open front door, she hears the all too familiar voice of Sirius Black yelling her name. She briefly entertains the hope that James will be walking through her up to her doorstep with him, but when she turns her head to see him, it's just the one. "Black," she replies with a grin. Even though she's disappointed that James isn't here yet, she's undeniably excited to see Sirius as well. He spins her around in a tight hug as soon as he crosses the threshold into her flat. Honestly, she can't believe that a full 3 months have passed since she's seen him. He gives damn good hugs. "I've got to say," he says, appraising her after he sets her back down, "you pull off muggle clothes and infinitely better than wizarding ones." She's got a whole closet worth of elaborate and increasingly risque wizard robes that would likely beg to differ, but Sirius can't know about those, because he'd surely ask how she's managed to get her hands on all of those, and that's a question she absolutely cannot answer for him. So she just laughs and agrees with him. "I never did much enjoy Hogwarts robes." "Neither did I, Evans," he replies with a grin. "Neither did I." Then he turns his attention to Remus, who's still standing on Lily's other side. "Moony, long time no see," he says, and there's a slightly devious look in his eyes that makes Remus flush. Lily makes a mental note to figure out what that's all about eventually. Mary arrives a few minutes later, then Peter after that. Everyone pours themselves drinks and makes themselves comfortable across Lily's living room, stealing chairs from her kitchen or sitting on the floor as they trade stories and memories. "Remember our first trade ride to Hogwarts, Evans?" Sirius asks her. "Remember what little shits James and I were?" Lily thinks back to that day, back to that exchange in the train compartment where she'd so passionately defended Snape to an exceptionally obnoxious James and Sirius. It's a strange memory to think back on, purely because of how tainted it's become. The boy she'd protected turned out to be a closeted blood purist who called her a nasty slur and condoned attacks on her friends. And the boys she'd been yelling at grew up to be the good ones, and the ones she's actually friends with now. "We were all little shits," she clarifies. Speaking of prongs, Peter chimes in. Where is he? Lily is almost glad someone else brought up James's absence, and she had her eyes on the door almost constantly for the past 15 minutes or so, just waiting for him to walk in. She hopes no one has noticed, but knowing her friends, at least one of them has. Sirius shrugs. No fucking clue. He's usually late, but not usually this late. Not to mention that it's Lily's party, and James's ability to be on time only exists specifically for her. Marlene finishes, none too subtly. Yes, exactly that. Lily tries to act more nonchalant than she feels. She's not going to acknowledge the sinking feeling that started in her gut. That's not going to give it any more power over her while she's supposed to be enjoying time with her friends. He's just running later than usual, that's all. It's fine, she tells them. He'll get here when he gets here. She's greeted with more than one slightly suspicious look, like they don't believe that she's casual about his tardiness as she seems, and she's immediately feels that she needs to turn the attention away from herself. They're all acting like she's made of glass or something, and she does not like that one bit. How has James been lately? Mary asks. I haven't heard from him once since graduation. She's looking at Lily as she poses the question, like she's expecting Lily to have seen him more recently. Lily doesn't want to admit she hasn't heard anything from him either, if only because acknowledging that means coming to terms with the fact that maybe she's no different from Mary in his eyes. But maybe no one's heard from him. Maybe he's stopped talking to Sirius and Remus and Peter as well. And maybe it's just an everyone thing as he adjusts to his new training schedule. He's doing pretty good, Peter answers, not picking up on the fact that Mary's question was aimed at Lily, not him. He spends most of his time training or with his teammates, though. I've only seen him like 4 times all summer. Don't know why I felt the need to edit that. 4 times. Peter, and presumably Remus and Sirius too, have seen James 4 times since graduation. She hasn't seen him once. Hell, she hasn't even got a single letter. And clearly, yeah, he is busy, but not too busy to see his other friends. She had really thought after graduation and that last night before they left Hogwarts that they were in a really good place, that his feelings for her were the same as hers for him, and he'd certainly made it seem that way at the very least. After all of that, why would he decide to stop talking to her, and just her? He's too good for us now, Sirius says, and the smirk on his face says that he's just being sarcastic, but his words hit Lily with full force. She hadn't really let herself consider that option before, that James would somehow move on, just move past his school friends, ditching them entirely for a new life. He had never made any sort of indication that he was planning on doing that at school. He had never said anything that would make her believe he thought himself above the rest of them after signing his Quidditch contract. She doesn't want to believe he'd be that person, but time is ticking and he's still not here. The hours pass by, and Lily's trying her best to enjoy herself, sipping at butterbeer, laughing along with everyone, but she really wants to be alone. She looks around the room, and everyone's talking and laughing, but it's still obvious that there's one thing missing, and that there's one person missing. And in that moment, the truth finally sinks in. Despite his promises and the fact that all of his other friends are here today, James isn't coming today. Something has changed between the two of them, a total about face from their last interactions, and he's decided to cut her out as a result. Sirius's earlier sarcasm was a thin mask of truth. James is probably too caught up in his new glamorous professional Quidditch lifestyle to give a damn about some girl from his Hogwarts days anymore. And as usual, she's put her faith in someone who's decided that the best option is to crush her under their heel. She feels a tightness growing in her chest, and suddenly the desire to be alone becomes a need. I'm going to the loo, she says abruptly, interrupting whatever conversation she was only halfway paying attention to her, setting her bottle down on the table in front of her, leaving the room as fast as she can without acting suspicious. She goes down the hallway and closes the door behind her. There in the bathroom, she tries not to fall apart, fingers gripping at the edge of the bathroom sink tightly. She stares at them, watching her knuckles go white. He said he'd be here, she says hopelessly, to no one but herself, her voice barely above a whisper. She knows it's stupid because he said he'd be here months ago, and things change, and he's incredibly busy with the pride of Portree. But he told her, with her hand with her hands in his, and a look of utmost sincerity in his eyes, and that he wouldn't miss this party for the world. And like a fool, she'd believed him. She looks back up in the mirror at the single tear running down her cheek, at her and her jaw sets. She should have known better than to let herself care this deeply about someone again. She shouldn't have given James this power over her, the power to cut her this deeply over something as little as blowing off a party. Fuck. She swore after Snape she wasn't going to give someone else the potential to break her like that. She wasn't going to let herself fall for anyone's stupid tricks or lies anymore. And maybe that's the problem. Nothing about James ever felt like a trick or a lie, or like he's ever had anything but what appears to be. That's one of the things she likes best about him, the fact that he's unapologetically himself and doesn't waver from that. The idea that he's changed so much in 3 months, from the boy who had become one of her best friends and trusted her with all of his biggest secrets, to someone who wants nothing to do with her, feels like such a sudden and unexpected shift. Especially when, as Marlene pointed out just a few hours ago, it's not like the rest of them have changed that much since school ended. But it seems like that's exactly what happened. She can't really think of any other plausible explanation for all of this. And really, she should have realized it a while ago. She curses herself again, because why the fuck did she not see this coming? Why did it take 3 months, multiple unresponded letters, and a no-show at a party for her to realize James doesn't really care about her the way she'd let herself believe he did? Why did she let herself get blinded by affection and feelings and rose-colored glasses, only to get herself hurt again? Petunia, Severus, James, she'd been through this shit 3 times now. And this time, she's done with it. She's had enough. She's done letting people in, letting them have such a profound piece of her heart, because clearly even the people she thinks are somehow different and better turn out to be exactly the same as everyone else before. She wipes her tears from her cheeks, determined not to let herself continue to cry over someone who doesn't deserve it. There's a soft knock at the door. Remus's voice comes through the other side. Lily? Yes? She wills her voice not to crack, and it doesn't. If nothing else, her order to work so far has done wonders for her acting abilities. Or her order work so far has done wonders for her acting abilities. I just wanted to make sure you were okay. Of course, despite her best acting, James's close friends had always been a bit of a sense on when something's really wrong. Her abrupt departure from the party seems to be no exception. She's willing to bet more than one of them followed her down the hall. She gets confirmation of that when she opens the door and is face to face with both Remus and Sirius. I'm brilliant, she tells them, hoping like hell it's not too obvious that she was crying just a few minutes ago. Evans, I've got no clue why he didn't show today, Sirius says. I mean, we've definitely talked about it recently, so it's not like he just forgot about it. Lily doesn't miss the subtle elbow from Remus at that small jab of, you're not helping. It's fine, she lies, even though it's not. But what else is she supposed to say? The one person whose presence meant most to her is the one who didn't show up? and that it's finally shown her how much he doesn't care about her anymore. No, it's not, Sirius argues back. It's real shitty of him not to show up to something we've all been planning for a year with no explanation to you whatsoever. And secretly, she agrees with him, but she also refuses to let him know that she cares that much. It really is, she tells them, brushing her hair over her shoulder. He's got his Quidditch career to pay attention to now, and like you said, he's too good for us. Too good for me now. That's fine. I really don't care. She'll keep saying it out loud until she starts to mean it. If not letting herself care about anyone is the way she stops getting betrayed, then so be it. She'll be a heartless ice queen if that's what it takes. Both Remus and Sirius look at her, slightly aghast, and Lily starts to think that to herself, at the very least, a shocked look is better than a pitying one. Lily, Remus starts. Let's go back to the party, yeah? She says, no, she's, she says, and the nonchalance in her voice feels less faked this time. I want to watch Peter get his eyebrows burned off in the exploding snap for the 1,000th time. The next morning, after everyone's left, because of course everyone ended up getting too plastered to apparate home and ended up crashing on the floor of her tiny one-bedroom flat, she goes about the process of cleaning up the apartment for the mess they'd made the night before. She's long since abandoned the yellow party dress in favor of an oversized t-shirt and pajama shorts. She waves her wand as she watches the empty bottles and cups pile themselves in the bin, balloons deflate and follow suit, and all her cushions right themselves again. Then she sets down her wand because she wants to do the next part by hand. When she had moved into this flat, she'd covered the walls of her living room with pictures from her Hogwarts years. The room is filled with images of her laughing and smiling with friends, and somehow James is nearly a constant fixture in all of them. And so, one by one, she removes every single one of them from her walls. Every single photograph with his stupid face gets put into a pile of memories she no longer wants to be confronted with every day. But as much as she wants to get rid of them permanently, she can't convince herself to part with them just yet. So she summons a small black storage box from her closet, piling them all inside, closing the lid neatly on top. Locked up in a box, she's just like she's locking them away in her mind. She carries the box into her bedroom, shoving it as far under her bed as she can manage. It can stay there and collect dust for Merlin knows how long, and maybe one day when she truly and completely stops giving a fuck about James Potter, she'll find it and shove it into the bin for real this time. The rest of her Sunday is spent knee-deep in cleaning the rest of her flat, writing an update to Dumbledore, and perusing the Sunday edition of The Prophet for anything interesting. The sun is low in the sky when an owl comes knocking at the window bearing a tiny rolled-up scroll. She opens the window for just long enough to take the letter from the owl before sending it on its way. She unfurls the note, revealing one messily written line in black ink. I'm sorry I didn't make it yesterday, Jay. She looks at the letter, even if it can be called that, it's barely a sentence, and answers it out loud in words she'll never send. Yeah, I'm sorry too. An end note. You gotta sink your ship to float it right. All right, let me add Taylor back in. So, Taylor, who hurt you?
Yeah, so this is build up to a different story that is still very much living in just like Google Docs at this point, that requires James and Lily to not be on good terms, and so this was putting them on not good terms. Yeah. That's not really an answer to who hurt you, but
Well, okay, I do want to ask a very specific question that came to me while I was reading this. Do you like? I feel like there's a low key assertion in this that Lily loved Snape on more than a friendship level, and that his betrayal was something more than just like a shitty friend turning shitty, or like a person turning into a shitty friend. What are your thoughts there? Like,
so there's not anything romantic there. It's just, I think for her, she's had these people in her life that have felt like the closest person in her life. And so like when she was younger, that was Petunia. And then she lost Petunia, and Snape kind of filled that void, as someone who she just kind of became her like main confidant.
okay.
And person that kind of had been like a integral part of her life.
Mm-hmm.
And then lost that. And then in the aftermath ended up really good friends, and sort of on that like almost edge of not just being friends, with James. And so she's had these 3 people in her life now that she's kind of gotten super close with and have hurt her in some way.
Okay. And then so I know that you're still writing the novel that will follow this. How successful is she in like actually turning into the no feelings ice queen? Like, you can't touch this. Dun 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 dun.
Better than she should be. So, or at least externally better than she should. Then she's good at it, but also she still holds on to things in a way that's maybe not quite, she holds on to it in much more of like a form of anger. Like, she hasn't really let this go, in a way that she's like completely moved past it and is like totally chill with everything, but it's much less of a sadness and much more of a like frustration and anger type
So,
of.
like, how fast does James try to come back and be like Captain Smooth with her? I know I'm talking about like the next story that you're writing, and not this one, but
yeah. It takes a while. So it is the story that comes after is enemies to lovers, and they do not get along for a while. So.
Okay. So like what is his deal? Was he just like busy with like Lottie fucking da, I'm a Quidditch dude?
So there is a lot of backstory there. And a lot of it is spoilery, so I can't say.
So okay, he wasn't being like held captive by Voldemort or something like daring and inexcusable.
No.
Okay, fine. Because that was kind of what I was thinking, like, maybe like there's some like interesting stabby stuff happening, and it's tragic that she's assuming the worst. But no, he's actually being a dick.
Yeah.
Okay. How much of this is James is afraid of his feelings?
It's actually not that much of that.
All right, I have another important question that's more about this story.
Okay.
Tell me more about the sexy wizard robe industry.
There, I actually like just worked on the chapter where I like explained this in slightly more detail in the actual novel. They're made risque by her own alterations to a lot of vintage dress robes that she has come by, as a result of. There's a one shot that follows this, that is also posted on the archives, and then also leads into this story. And basically, Lily is doing this weird thing with a Order of the Phoenix that looks different, because this is an alternate universe, and it's an Order of the Phoenix that looks different. And her role in it is basically that she has assumed the role of a pureblood, like in like undercover sort of, and is
Mhm.
relaying information. And so that's where she gets that collection from, is doing
Sexy pure blood dress up
yeah.
time.
Yes. Yes.
That sounds like a kink meme thing.
Probably.
Um, okay. And for Sam, because I know she's watching, here's some off screen.
So much cuteness.
Um, so how, like, are you building out a whole universe around this AU idea?
I am, it's not yes and no. I mean, it's really just this one novel. It's just happened that, and then, you know, these two little one shots that I wrote.
Okay.
And it's just so happened that in the process of trying to make this come to life, it has spawned a lot of world building in my head. So,
Okay. Because, yeah, it's one of those things like, I don't know, butterfly effect, the ripple
yeah,
effect.
yeah,
Change
that's it.
one small thing.
Yeah, that's a lot of it, is how one small thing has like had these like major repercussions, and so many things are different, and I have to like, even if I don't ever explicitly explain why they're different, I need to know in my own head why, what all of the steps are that have led up to this moment, and why it's different in the end. So
Mm-hmm. Well, cool. I look forward to reading more. When are you publishing your novel? Are you gonna finish it and then post it, or post it as you go?
So, my intention is, at the very least, so I have two other works in progress on my author's page right now, and I don't want three. So my goal is to finish one or both of those before I start posting this one.
Okay.
So
Oh,
also,
and go
to
ahead.
answer the question of how much did it hurt you to write, on a scale of 1 to oh my god, um, somewhere in
Like,
it wasn't as full of an oh my god, I don't think, because I know, like, I know how that like the full storyline goes, so I like know that this isn't, if this was all I was writing, it would be probably have been more painful to sink my own ship, but I know that eventually it floats again. So not as bad as it could have.
and yeah, I did wonder that as well, especially before I knew that there was more coming. I was like, wow, this is like shooting yourself in the foot here.
Yeah, I mean it. It's definitely the first time I've ever attempted to sink them as a ship. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I didn't know more was coming, I'd be like, Taylor, do you need help? Like, all right, cool. I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up there.
all right.
Yeah. Look forward to doing more Fic Night next month, or I think we might have a bonus one for Asian Pacific Fic theme stories. All right. Good night, everyone. Or